and welcome to the Chicago Humanities Festival. My name is Natalie Cohen, and I'm the senior programmer. It's my pleasure to welcome you to today's program, a conversation on the HBO series Room 104 with creator Mark Duplass, executive producer Sydney Fleischmann, and moderated by Collider reporter Christina Radish. You can learn more about upcoming events at chicagohumanities.org and help support us by donating or becoming a member. Thanks to our captioner for making this event more accessible, all digital events have been closed captioned, which can be controlled through YouTube. And now it's my pleasure to welcome our guests, Mark Duplass, Sydney Fleischmann, and Christina Radish.
Hi, this is Christina Radish with Collider. And before we kick off the Q&A with Mark Duplass and Sydney Fleischmann, we have a short trailer to show you from Room 104.
Welcome to Room 104, where your pleasure is our priority. Thank you for choosing to stay with us as your preferred destination. You'll find everything you're searching for here in your personalized in-room guide, where a wide variety of entertainment options are just a click away.
What is going on?
All of this is all about you.
Who are you?
Traveling with a family? We offer an assortment of 8-bit video games. And don't forget to check out our family-friendly sitcoms.
What the? It's the final season of Room 104. The room may be the same, but the guests never are. And you never know who's...
Our luxurious twin beds and wide selection of romantic comedies will surely put you in the mood for love.
The Duplass brothers present...
Walker? What are you doing here?
I got the letter.
Oh my God, you read my letter.
Our amenities include complimentary Wi-Fi, a foam bath, therapy hamsters, and a virtual Broadway musical experience.
Cue the lights. It's Room 104, the musical, with a rare appearance of Mark Duplass, presenting a heart-wrenching ballad.
So sit back, relax, and turn the lights low. No two guest experiences are the same in Room 104.
What is this, some kind of sitcom? Aren't you just... Yes! Cable TV.
We hope you enjoy your stay.
Glad to see you before the goddamn internet kills you off for good, eh? It's coming, telling you.
That trailer is such a great representation of this show. It's one of the things I find so fascinating about this show is how different it is, and I find that very inspirational. So I thought that was awesome. Well, to start out with a fun question before we get deeper into Room 104, Mark, if you could do an episode of any TV show, current or past, what show would it be and why?
As an actor or as a sort of
actor.
creator? Oh, God, that's really tough. I think that being on Cheers would have been kind of magical for me because that was a big family show that we enjoyed growing up. But something tells me the most fun might have been the set of Night Court. I think there was drinking going on. I have a sense.
Well, for both of you, is there a current TV show that you would love to write and or direct an episode of?
Oh man, that's a good one. I'm currently watching I May Destroy You, which is currently destroying me. So that's definitely one. But I think Michaela Cole has that covered.
I'm liking Lovecraft Country. It's just kind of like the socio-political and the genre together are really working for me.
It's also a cool show that changes its tone in every episode. So it's kind of like Room 104 in that sense.
Exactly, yes.
Well, Mark, when you started thinking about what Room 104 could be, were you specifically interested in doing an anthology series and then had to figure out the best place to set it? Or did you have an idea to use a motel room and then have to figure out how to make that work as a series?
It was a combination of both things, I would say. I really love the idea of an anthology series. I love the idea that like basically you could make a curated grouping of short films that have different creators and different storytellers, and that would be wildly imaginative and that you would never really know what you were getting on each night. And then the motel part of it was sort of an instinctual choice. It was not an intellectual choice. It was just like, okay, it would be really cool to do it in a motel room. Why would it be cool? And then the more we learned about the show and thought about it, something started to emerge, which is that when a person goes into a motel room, there's this feeling that they can be a little bit different. They can let loose some side of themselves that they either keep hidden from others or that they keep hidden from themselves because they don't like it. And that paradox of a human being creates wonderful and strange behavior. And, you know, that really became apparent to me that like the motel room is the perfect sweet spot for that.
Was it always that you were going to stay in that room and not go out of the room? Did you ever try to think of ways to go outside?
We set a rule early on that we'd always stay inside the room. You know, we really liked that idea. We set other kinds of sort of creative limits for ourselves, because one of the ideas about this show was that we could shoot them quickly, we could shoot them cheaply, and they would be these little explosive risk-taking stories that some turned out more interesting than others, and that would be okay. We'd move fast, we'd move on instinct. And I think we always felt that, you know, the challenge of trying to keep it fresh and new inside of those four walls was part of what was exciting about it.
Sydney, when you first heard about the idea and concept for Room 104, what was your reaction? What did you think of the potential for an anthology series that takes place in the same setting?
I mean, to me, I think even from the very beginning, the first time I think Mark came up to my desk and said, hey, do you want to produce this show? I think I understood how boundless it was and how many different kinds of stories. And then once we started talking about all of I remember when we first put our pitch deck together, we had all these log lines for different episodes, and they all just felt so different, and it really felt limitless even from the very beginning.
On day one of the first episode, what did you set out wanting and hoping to accomplish with Room 104? And now that you have 4 complete seasons, how did it surpass your expectations?
That's a good question, because what this show could be has changed a lot through the years. And I think that if I'm honest, when we first started this show, I was looking at it as a bit of a creative outlet to explore a different side of myself creatively than we were currently doing sort of inside of the Duplass brothers brand, you know? And we never intended on there being a brand, but the kind of art that Jay and I tended to create, it had an aura around itself and a tone and an energy. And I was just like wanting to break out and have an affair. And that's part of why this show began the way it did. But what happened is that through the first season, we realized that, yes, this is a place to tell explosive and different stories out of a darker side of Mark's brain. We realized that by partnering with other creators, we were able to tell wildly different stories than we were capable of telling ourselves. And that included not only mentoring newer filmmakers, newer actors in front of and behind the camera, obviously, but also it really included us being able to say that the kinds of stories we want to tell here are inherently about kind of outliers, you know? And we want to be able to take these people who normally only get 2 or 3 minutes of screen time and give these characters their leading roles. And so the collaborative nature of what Room 104 showed itself to be has weirdly become the ethos of where we want to be heading as a company right now, is to use our platform, Room 104 or whatever Duplass Brothers has to offer, to bring in new talent that is unrepresented in front of and behind the camera, partner with them and create something totally unique and enter a mutually beneficial partnership. They're getting their first step into the industry with us in one of these roles, and we are getting to tell a kind of story that we never could have told on our own.
And Sydney, what was it like for you as a producer to watch the seasons evolving and really sort of have to evolve with it?
Yeah, I think at the beginning, it was all just sort of very broad in terms of what kind of stories we wanted to tell. And the people that we wanted to include and all of that. And I think over the course of the 4 seasons, we really learned how to do it and how to focus ourselves and sort of focus our efforts and not get lost in the like out in the universe of all the different possibilities of what the show could be. And so I think it really has taught me how to focus and how to really zero in on, okay, this is what we're looking for, and this is our goal, this is what we're trying to accomplish.
After you did 1 season, did you feel like you had solidified what the show was, or do you feel like that gave you even more opportunity to experiment and try different things that you hadn't thought about before starting the show?
Good question.
I think that season 1 was kind of our foundation season, where we learned what worked, what didn't work, what was sort of the most successful type of story or type of approach. And then I think from there, it kind of gave us the solid footing to really go even crazier and go take more risks and more swings.
Yeah, the big takeaway for me from season 1 was that the sort of wilder episodes, like Voyeurs, our all modern dance episode, were much more appreciated and much better received than we thought they might be. We thought those might be tolerated as our sort of odd tracks on the record, but people actually celebrated them and wanted more of those, which was really exciting. And then I think we learned that the idea that we wanted for our audience, which was to experience the show without knowing what kind of tone you were going to get on every night. You know, would an audience show up if they weren't showing up to consistently get the same kind of story, but if they were showing up to be consistently surprised with what kind of story they got, you know? And what we learned was some people got really angry with us about that because they would see 2 episodes that were kind of the same, and then we would get these messages on social media, like, you know, the next week, like, will you change the whole show? What are you doing? You know? And then there was a deeply appreciative section of the audience who realized what we were doing, saying, no. I'm playing Russian roulette when I show up with this show, and I love this about it. And so we felt like we had enough of a core audience to lean into that even further.
Yeah, that's certainly what I love about it. And that's what I find so inspiring about it too, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And I just think that's really cool.
And look, we're probably not the first people who have wanted to do something like this before. It's just that it's hard to get a big audience when you're doing something like that, honestly. And HBO is mostly responsible for us staying on the air for 4 years, you know, like, just being totally honest, our viewership is really good, but, you know, at most places, we probably would have gotten canceled a lot earlier if we didn't have HBO's dedication and belief in us. And so we owe them the world on this one.
When you started Room 104, you really had no way to know what it would turn into, where it could go, or what the full journey would end up being. So now that you can look back on it as a whole, how do you feel about the collection of episodes overall?
I feel so good about it. I feel I get sort of a warm feeling when I think about all the kinds of different things that we've done and that we've gotten to try. And there are obviously things that we would have wanted to do. I think there are, like I said, there are just endless opportunities and possibilities with the show. But I think that we've created this really well-rounded group of 48 stories that are all different, but somehow are of a piece.
Yeah, I share the same view, which is that I'm really proud of what we've done. And that's not to say that I think every episode is an A+ episode, but collectively, the bat that we tried to swing, I think we've done really well with, you know, how much we've been able to connect with audiences with what we've done. And my only bittersweet note is I just wanted to make so many more, and I could make so many more, because every time we feel like we might have hit some sort of wall, we end up finding something else and leapfrogging over it in some weird way. And yeah, that's the only hard part.
Mark, you've said a couple times about how not every episode is as good as all the other episodes. So is that a way that you tend to normally look at things? Like, do you tend to see the flaws and stuff when you look at work that you do, or is it always about thinking about what you should have changed, or do you get to a point where you just have to move on from being able to fix or change something?
Yeah, I have a pretty healthy attitude, I think, towards like what is required to make, a relevant piece of art. And I am definitely not the kind of person who says, well, it just came out this way and that's what it is, so let's put it out. And I'm a little bit brutal in terms of hammering things. And if I feel like they can be improved with a lot of hard work, I can be a little bit ruthless about that. But at the same time, one thing that I've learned as an artist, and the older and more experienced I get, the more I realize is that I just can't know at the outset what's going to make something great. And it's just not what my strength is. My strength is moving with inspiration and belief that it could be great, and then dealing with the outcome and being honest with myself, whether it's really connecting or really not, by testing it on friends and filmmakers and audience members who help me and guide me and Sid towards the best possible outcome. And so that same sort of humility that has been beaten into me through the years, because I don't make perfect art, is the same kind of humility that allows me to release something into the world, even if it's not perfect, because I still believe that there are some of my favorite pieces of art are really rough hewn and flawed, but have moments of lightning and genius in them. And sometimes that rough hewn quality is the same thing that you love, in like a poorly recorded demo that you treasure, and that can be just as valuable to someone as a connection point. So I just try my best to find that balance.
Mark, the episode that you directed in the fourth and final season of Room 104 entitled The Murderer, you also wrote, you acted in, you played the music for. When you're wearing all of those hats, how much do you have to rely on your core collaborators in order to actually pull it all off? And Sydney, what was it like to work with Mark on that episode?
I mean, I'll just say for me going into it, having written the music, that's fine, that's done, that's behind you. Being able to perform in the moment, good. I'm good with that. But directing myself in the moment, I was just lost. I mean, that's just really what it is. You can't, when you're playing a character like that in particular, you're trying to make sure that the tension is working correctly and the combination of humor. It's a very delicate, strange tone. Plus, is the cinema working at the same time? I don't know. Maybe some people can do that. I can't. So I had kind of a conversation with Sid and with Mel Eslin and with Julian Was, and also with Sean, who's our DP. And I was just like, hey, I need you guys to kind of carry me in this thing and help tell me what's working and what's not. So I'm not like watching every single take after we do it and trying to get some objective judgment. I just surrendered that and let my people kind of cradle me, as it were.
Yeah, and I think that your vision for the episode and the tone that you were going for, you made that very clear to us.
Yeah.
And so we were able to sit there at Video Village and watch you perform and be able to say, let's talk about this. Is that quite right?
This is different than you thought it might be. We like it. It's okay.
Yeah.
I want you to know it's different. And then we would make it all together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sydney, the episode that you directed, Generations, was written by Julian Was. So did you collaborate throughout the writing process for that episode, or was the script written before you ended up directing it?
Definitely. Every script sort of has its own life and its own journey that it goes through. And with this specific one, Julian had written a version of it, and all the producers, we all talked about it, and we all gave notes and had a conversation with feedback. And then really past that point, he and I started to get into these like very specific discussions over all the little details. And so it became a really collaborative process of getting the script to the place it needed to be for us to shoot. And so it was really fun just sort of going back and forth with Julian about what the tone of it was and what emotion we were trying to convey at each specific moment. So that was definitely a collaboration in terms of writer and director.
What was it like for you to see the finished product of that? I mean, are you somebody that can sit back and look at your work and say, this is a great episode, or is it also hard to look at it without seeing the things that you still wish you could change?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I was expecting to have watched it so many times that I just lost all perspective and was like, I hate this about it, hate that about it. And I really didn't have that experience. That was kind of a nice surprise to have been a part of the writing process, and then on set, and then in the editing process, and still at the end of it actually feel the emotion. I think that when you watch episodes of the same thing over and over again, you kind of become numb to certain emotions, and that didn't happen for me. And I was very pleasantly surprised by that.
Mark is the creator of the series, and with both of you being executive producers, what do you feel you learned from watching all of the other filmmakers that did episodes? Do you feel that you guys learned anything new from any of them that you might apply to your own work in the future?
So many things.
Yeah. I feel like I learned everything from watching all the other directors. And I think that there were just so many different kinds of people who directed episodes on this show, that seeing how each person operated, like So Young Kim is the kind of director who just wants to be in the room with the actors. She just likes being close to them and feeling them act, rather than sitting at Video Village, whatever, 30 feet away, and yell through the wall, giving them notes. That intimacy of her work is because of that process for her. And then just watching how everybody does their own thing. And it was really illuminating to have that experience sitting next to all those directors.
Yeah, and I learned about the power of enthusiasm, and the power of not exactly knowing all the rules and your limits. It's something I start to forget through the years, the longer and longer I make movies. But when I see first timers in particular approach it with an optimism, and at times an ignorance in a good way of what you can and cannot do, and I see how they just break through those walls, it re-inspires me and makes me remember, oh shit, that's right. Like, when you believe you can do something. I remember telling Natalie Morales, who had this massive shot list and 2 days to shoot an episode, I was just like, you're not going to be able to pull it off. And she's like, yes, I will. And I was like, all right, it's your funeral. And like, she did it and had time to spare it. It's one of our best episodes, and the same thing with Sarah Smith, who did the Knock and Do episode in Ralphie in the first season. I mean, it's just the things she was able to do. And it made me realize that, I could have directed a lot more of these episodes, and I think I was in some ways one of the more experienced directors around the set. But I'm really glad that I didn't. I'm glad that I wrote them and got them on their feet, and I'm glad that we brought in the new energy and the new kinds of ideas to make them different than I would have made them. And honestly, I think that I really do believe this. Like, their vision, their preparation, their excitement more than made up for their lack of experience, or the experience that I had, and they made better episodes than I would have. I believe it.
Because the series was both experimental and constricting in its approach, with the ability to tell any type of story, but within one hotel room, what did you most enjoy, both of you, about the opportunity that directing episodes of this series really sort of provided for you?
It's a good question. I think overall the thing that this show has taught me is to just keep an open mind, and to collaborate, but also just be open to any possibility. And I think that I tried to keep that with me when I was directing, of yes, we have lots of limitations in terms of the space and the time that we have to shoot each episode, and the budget and all of those things. But I think that there are so many other ways to open things up, and that was really a big part of directing for me, I think, was to just sort of stay open to whatever was going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, for me, if I'm being honest, Room 104 is the first time I've ever directed anything on my own without my brother. And as much as I felt confident that I had learned enough through the years to do it on my own, I was still nervous and still, scared. And there's something to Sid's point about the safety of Room 104, of we're just trying to do wild, fun, interesting things, and there's a loving cast and crew around you who are going to support you and catch you and help you out. And so it was a really nice place for me to, I don't want to say experiment, but at least see how it would feel to do this on my own without having to do it inside of a $15 million feature film with, studio executives looking at me and wondering what was going on. So it was comforting.
The theme for the 2020 Chicago Humanities Festival is vision. And film and TV seems to really sort of fit under that umbrella well, in the sense that it takes a collective vision to pull off bringing a script to life. And then the individual audience members or viewers each take their own meaning of that vision. So is there a piece of art or entertainment that you feel really changed your perspective or the way that you see the world?
There's a lot. Definitely a lot. I mean, I do remember seeing the documentary American Movie when I was about 19 or 20. And it's very long. It's about 2.5 hours. And they spend quite a bit of time with Mark Borchardt, the protagonist. And I remember judging him and laughing at him for quite a long time before I started to feel for him and come up next to him and be with him on his journey, as opposed to looking at him in some strange objective way. And I remember it changed me and made me think that if I could do in narrative cinema what they have done with this type of character and my experience of him, I could really have a lane here. And it took me a long time to get even close to that, but it was definitely something that lit a fuse for me.
Yeah, I mean, there are just so many different things. I think I'm thinking of something just recently that I've watched that sort of shifted my perspective and opened my eyes to different things, new things. I recently watched I'm Not Your Negro, and it's such a beautiful documentary, and James Baldwin's words are just so powerful, and the way that it was presented it was so accessible and still so altering for me and just my outlook on things. That was really, I wasn't expecting how powerful that would be to me.
That movie is incredible.
It's incredible.
We haven't even talked about that, but it's like, it's a message that's been around for a long time. It's a really complex message, but there's something about the essence of who he is that delivers you in a way that just goes right in, like super easy.
Yeah, exactly.
These days, it seems too that there are almost as many remakes and reimaginings of previous work as there is original material. How does revisiting and reinterpreting the work of past artists renew culture and provide a different perspective through that?
Funny you should ask, because we're just about to announce Room 105. We're very excited about it. It's a good question. I mean, obviously we're not doing a lot of that here on Room 104. I tend to generally not go there as an artist, whether that is, either reboots or remakes or, even, adaptations from a documentary into a narrative. I mean, there was a lot of talk of doing that with Wild Wild Country, which we produced. And I kind of just am this person that feels like if the art gets you and the form is working, just don't fuck with it, basically. But that's just my own, personal take. But I think that, not to beat a dead horse, but the idea of taking something in the world and feel of like H.P. Lovecraft and then bringing that story and modernizing it and using the genre elements to find ways to bring in other audience members and let them experience it. That's really exciting to me. And we haven't done a lot of that because I just be honest with you, like as a company, we still have such a scrapper mentality. We still have this thing of like, we're never going to be able to get rights to H.P. Lovecraft. We got to make up our own stuff and just go do it. It's just what we do. But there is definitely a place for it. It just hasn't been in our lexicon yet.
I want to go back to the beginning of your working relationship together. Sydney, how did you end up working as Mark's assistant? And Mark, what was it that originally made you hire Sydney as your assistant?
I was working at a talent management company, and I made a very ballsy choice to go to my bosses and say, I don't want to work in talent management. I thought I was going to offend them. They instead said, well, how can we help you get to your next thing? Which I will always be grateful for, that just openness to say, how can we help you? And they basically said, who do you like? What are you interested in? And I said, well, I really like the Duplass brothers. And it just so happened that Mark was looking for an assistant, and we had one coffee, and I think that's it. I think it was a very straightforward interview process.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective was I knew Sid's old boss, who is Naomi Odenkirk, was one of them, and she is just one of the good people in the industry, in my opinion. I just love her, and she's always been supportive of us, and I felt had a good understanding of who we were and what we were trying to do, and wouldn't bullshit me with a recommendation. So I went in already leaning in to thinking this person's probably great, you know. And I guess what I saw and said initially that made me make the jump was people are just desperate in this town, and there's an energy about it that I always feel like I'm having to either try to put them at ease or put myself at ease around them, because the dreams are so big and they're so exciting and they seem so far away that people just, it's crazy making, and it makes me crazy sometimes too. And when I was with Sid, it was so comfortable. It was so, I don't know, maybe you weren't comfortable, maybe you were nervous.
I'm sure I was nervous.
It was so easy and it felt so great. And, you know, I was pretty straightforward with her that it's like, as an assistant at this company, we're a small company, you're also going to be doing a lot more things. And some people like their lanes very specific. Well, what's my work? If I'm an assistant, I only want to do this. And I was like, you're going to be doing a lot of things, including, we didn't even know, 2 years later, you know, show running.
Mark, typically for you, I mean, when you have these people that work for you or your production company, how do you know when they're ready to step up as executive producer or writer and director?
We have in the past, we tend to promote people a lot earlier than is traditionally done. And I love that approach. And I have been made aware of the negatives of that approach, that even though it feels exciting to everyone in the moment, it can be really stressful for those people. But I feel like the opportunities and what it can bring to the projects and to the person you're promoting far outweigh those risks, you know? But, you know, the true story, the true Cinderella story of Sid Fleischmann is that, you know, it was not one gold slipper. It was like, Sid, come be my assistant. She was around Togetherness. She saw it. Then we tried to make this really micro budget project for a little while, and it kind of bombed out on both of us, and it didn't work out. And I was worried, shit, I put Sid in the producer role of that. I promoted her too early. Did I screw up here? Did I mess with her confidence? What happened? And she really dug her way through it. And then Room 104 came quickly on the heels of that and kind of got right back up with me and went. So I don't always know when it's the right time, but I am a person who says, when in doubt, if you believe in this person, just throw them into it. Because I didn't know what I was doing when I produced The Puffy Chair. I was 26 and I was making the budgets on a sheet of loose leaf, and I didn't know what software to use. And like, I wrote the script in Microsoft Word. Like, I never knew what I was doing, but I just went for it. And I've always believed that if you have that energy, you'll get there. So I'm doing that, or trying to do that with the employees.
Yeah, and I think we also do it on Room 104. Giving people that opportunity that they are qualified, they do deserve it, but bumping people up to that sort of next level in their careers is something that's so rewarding for us to be able to do that. And they benefit because they're given the credit or the title bump that they've been working for. And I think it just creates an atmosphere where everybody is so excited to be there and everybody works hard. And I think that everyone benefits from that kind of atmosphere.
It's such a good point. It's one of the major pieces of advice I give to people who, when they're hiring on their sets, you know, is they're always thinking like, I'm trying to get this amazing DP or composer who has 100 credits, and I'm just dying to get them here if we can. And all I can think to myself is, okay, you might drag this overqualified person onto your small set, but they're probably going to be pretty pissed and grumpy when they get there, and they're certainly not going to want to work overtime and give you their good energy. But what if you promote the 28-year-old shooter who hasn't been a DP yet, but really has the skills, just doesn't have the credit, and the excitement and the loyalty that they'll give you for the rest of your career? All of that is just such a better choice, in my opinion.
Well, I have a few audience questions to ask you. So the first one I'm going to ask is, how did you go about pitching Room 104, and how would you recommend pitching a high concept anthology series in general where a pilot script doesn't seem as important?
Well, we had a relationship with HBO because I had done Togetherness with them. So the best recommendation I can give you is to have a network cancel your favorite show on you so they feel slightly guilty and maybe greenlight your anthology series. That's the best thing you can do. It's hard. You know, we were in a position where we had a deal at HBO. They already loved us, yet still we felt like we needed to go in with a ton of material. So I think we wrote 3 full scripts and pitched like 6 stories and had, you know, little paragraphs for maybe 10 more in our big Bible. And luckily, you know, HBO was on board for it. But I have to be honest, it's hard to sell anthology shows because of the very reason that you don't have a character to latch onto every single night and carry you through it. You know, networks, studios, streamers, they're worried that the audiences will be low because of that. So I wish I could highly recommend it as something that fruits very often, but I think it's a niche thing, and I think we were very fortunate to get put through.
The next audience question is, what are the specific films or filmmakers that influence the style of Room 104 because it has such a distinct feel?
It's such a good question because I am asked frequently sort of the different influences on the show, and it sounds so ridiculous to say it this way, but I think that the filmmakers who work on the show are the influences on the show. I think that they all, just because of this sort of like summer camp atmosphere that we have, the directors get to interact with each other, and I think that they all take things from each other and they learn things from each other, and it feels special to me in the sense that it's not sort of this list of high profile directors that everyone's like, oh, I'm tapping into this person or that person. I think that the really cool thing is that everybody gets inspired by each other.
Well, the next audience question is, what are the recommendations for viewers who like shows and movies that are beautiful and also creepy?
Beautiful and also creepy is just a wonderful description of Room 104, and I'll take it. I think that the Black Mirror episode San Junipero is wonderfully beautiful and a little creepy and strange, and I think that beautiful and creepy in other films. The one I love, the one we produced. Yeah, beautiful and creepy.
Lovecraft Country, again.
When all else fails, go to Lovecraft Country.
Exactly.
Well, Mark, did any of these episodes ever, or have they inspired any movie ideas for you in any way?
They have, and there have been certain episodes we felt like, could we spin this off into something larger in a different universe? And whether it's a multiverse or its own series or a movie, yes, 100%. It's also gone the other way. A lot of these ideas have been stories that I thought would end up as films, but didn't have quite enough to them to make it. So I've sort of like relaunched them as Room 104 episodes. So there's an interplay that goes back and forth. And there are so many ideas we've had through the years about what we're going to do. We've talked about, you know, writing books of short stories based upon some of these characters. We talked about doing a live version of theater with Room 104 because it's just one set and we can just stage them almost as like a series of one-act plays. So while for now Room 104, you know, is not active on television, we don't feel like it's the end of these stories by any means.
In the beginning of your careers and as your careers have grown, have either or both of you ever struggled with imposter syndrome and had to get to a place where you convinced yourself that you had a voice and a story or many stories to tell? How do you get past something like that?
I don't know how you get past it. I know how it feels. Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I've been on this sort of like rocket ship in my career where I went from assistant to producer on a show very quickly, and I think that my roller coaster ride on it was probably like big head, overly confident, and then underconfident, and then imposters. And it's just I think that everybody has those in their careers, no matter the validation that they get, whether it's from the people around them or from just continuing success. I think that imposter syndrome is a really hard thing to get over. And I think that for me, it just comes down to sort of like centering myself, taking stock of all of the incredible things in my life, all the incredible people I get to work with, all of the different creative outlets I've gotten to have, and just say like, that is what it's about. And kind of like coming back down from all the, I don't know, the chaos.
Yeah, I would echo that for me personally, but I would also venture to say something that, you know, Sid, you and I both share and have talked about in the past, which is Sid and I grew up in homes with parents who loved the shit out of us and told us every day that we are capable and they think we're great and we're going to go out and do great things. And I think that allowed her to come interview with me and be calm in that room. And I think that allowed me to do what I have done in my life. I believe it is the central tenet to my success. So I don't want to sound culty or new agey, but if we're doing anything right with Room 104, we're trying to pass on that message to all of our collaborators when they walk in and think, my God, I'm 19 years old and I've never written anything before. Or, you know, I'm just a theater director. I don't even understand this. Or I run a dance company in Washington. How am I going to direct TV? Is to center up with them and look them in the eyes and just say, you have something unbelievably unique to offer. We think you are incredible. You're going to do amazing. And we're here for you for whatever you need. And that has been one of the more rewarding, not only creative experiences, but honestly, life experiences.
Could you guys see yourself doing another anthology series again in the future?
Room 104 reboot, please. Wow. I said I wouldn't reboot, but I'll reboot my own show.
Yeah, definitely. I think the collaboration that happened on Room 104 and all of the new people that we got to meet doing it, I would do something like that again in a heartbeat, to just keep the energy up, you know?
It's so fun. It's so fun.
Well, I appreciate the conversation. You guys I could talk to you all day about filmmaking and all of this storytelling and everything. And I appreciate it. It's been really interesting to listen to you both. Your careers are really cool. So
thank you, Christina.
For the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.